Oh, you didn't know? Welcome back to another episode of LTS Wrestling Podcast. It's that NICC, and it's just me and Jojo today. What's going on, brother?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Tag team Zach in the house,
Yes, no.
and we are here to talk about WWE Backlash coming up this Saturday, May 10th. But before we get going on that part, first thing foremost, we want to thank all the viewers and all our subscribers continuing to follow us on all our platforms. We appreciate your support. If you haven't yet, please continue to hit the likes, subscribe button, and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, all of the social media platforms that we're on. But nonetheless, WWE Backlash, pretty much a few weeks off of WrestleMania. We got 5 matches set for this weekend. So we're going to go and talk about those matches and kind of give our picks along the way. So let's open this up with the Intercontinental Championship match, which will be featuring Dominic Mysterio and Penta. So here, clearly the most, I would say, the recent champion, or current champion, I should say, Dominic Mysterio, winning this at the Fatal 4-Way matchup from WrestleMania. So Dirty Dom here, kind of coming off the heels of that win, going up against Penta. We've been seeing a lot of interaction or matches between these two quite a few times this past few months, and I think the key thing to look towards here is I would say primarily just how instrumental Judgment Day is going to be in this, but at the same time, we kind of see in the background, right, with like the whole Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio, I would say even since WrestleMania, how that relationship is going to kind of is it going to kind of deteriorate over time? It kind of, I would say, foreshadows a little bit. Nonetheless, what's your take on this match, Nick?
Dom's gonna win. I think Dom's bro. Dominic Mysterio, bro. I'm very confident, bro. Yo, yes, it's not crazy this time. It's legit.
That's not.
Yeah. Dominic's gonna win. I can see Dom holding that title for a while. If Penta's gonna win, he would have to squeak one out. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't see Penta winning this one. I wouldn't mind a program with Dom and Penta for a while though. You know, I mean, I wouldn't mind it. But yeah, I think Dom's coming out on top.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing here is, I'll say this in the background. I realized that during WrestleMania weekend, there was the acquisition of AAA, right? And these two guys clearly have, I would say, a history where potentially they could lead into the whole NXT Worlds Collide PLE. And if that ever happens, I would clearly agree with you here, seeing that program just kind of stretch itself out to, I would say it's, I believe it's in June. So the, the time frame between now and then, it's clearly possible. But I agree with you. I think Dom's gonna clearly win this. This doesn't feel like any, it could be up in the air. I think his title reign is gonna continue to it's gonna continue from this PLE. But at the same time, yeah, like it's interesting because Penta kind of started out the whole year like a little hot. He's still clearly like one of the I would say main guys on the main roster, on the Monday Night Raw roster for that matter. But yeah, I agree with you here. Dirty Dom, retaining the title.
I just want to say though, and I keep saying this like every time we do predictions or every time we talk about like different titles, and they never do it, or they haven't done it yet, and they haven't done it in a while. But I wouldn't mind seeing the title go back and forth, like between pay-per-views, like just constantly changing. Because right now, all they're doing is real long-term title reigns, which I don't mind. I actually like, you know what I mean? Gives people the chase. But when it comes to maybe like this one, because Penta is hot. Penta is hot, and while I don't think the loss will do too much to his to his credibility or anything, you know what I mean? Like I think that I think that this would be if they're gonna do a back and forth title switch for a couple of months. I wouldn't mind seeing Dom and Penta just keep going at it. You know what I mean? Have Penta win one, have Dom win the next one, and then just keep going back and forth and let it culminate. You know what I mean?
That is kind of an interesting point, only because I can't recall the last time they hot potato a title.
Exactly.
You know what I
It's
mean?
been a long time.
Yeah. And if they have done it with any title, the one thing that comes to mind has probably been what, the 24/7 title.
And that's exactly what it is. Like
You know?
the 24/7 title is the last one I can
Yeah.
remember them doing, but I remember they would do the hot potato. I can't remember any specifics, but I know they would do it every so often during the Attitude Era, and they might have done it during the Ruthless Aggression Era as well, maybe with
Probably.
the
Yeah.
lower titles. But I can't remember in recent years them ever doing it. So, I
Yeah.
mean that'd be a good way to bring that kind of storytelling back, is within the Intercontinental or maybe even the US champ. You know what I mean? Like hot potato the title.
Yeah, that would be actually another interesting topic to have another episode. Just
I
because
agree.
the approach now with these titles, whether it's mid card or the main heavyweight titles for that matter, tend to be more relevant, especially if it's held by somebody for a decent amount of time. It does kind of create some sort of like importance in terms of who's holding it, but there I do also think about this. Yes, you hot potato the title, you give that uncertainty. It comes a little bit more realistic in terms of, the way you see how it is with other combat sports. A lot of
Yes.
times I would say, even in like for mixed martial arts for that matter, right? Like you don't necessarily see guys holding titles for a long length of time unless you were like a John Jones or
Right, right.
like George St. Pierre or whatnot, right? So it's kind of almost the credibility. It tends to have favorable factors depending on who it is and what type of title it is for that matter. But yeah, that'll be kind of an interesting topic to have for another episode at another
There we
time.
go.
Yeah, so I like that. I like that. And leading into the next match that we show here, we do have the other mid-card title from the SmackDown brand, which is the United States Championship, currently held by Jacob Fatu, who will be defending it against LA Knight, the former US champ, Damian Priest, and Drew McIntyre. So it's kind of like a combination of like the participants from each respective matches from WrestleMania now kind of intertwined into this fatal four-way. We last saw Drew McIntyre defeat Damian Priest at WrestleMania, having their street fight, and we also had Jacob Fatu winning the title from LA Knight. Interesting thing here is I think on a couple weeks ago we had number one contenders match between Drew McIntyre and LA Knight, which ended up having interference from Damian Priest, and then creating this whole fatal four-way scenario, right? So, looking at these four, throw it out there to you. What do you think?
I want to say Jacob Fatu with utmost certainty, but this one, I don't know. I don't know where to go with this one, because I don't know if I'm ready to see LA Knight just totally leave the US title scene. I mean, he's had a good run. Maybe it's time for him to leave. Also, I don't know if they're just gonna continue Drew versus Damian. I feel like that should have ended already, but if they're gonna keep going with it, they're gonna keep going with it. Um, I think Jacob Fatu is gonna win in the end, but I think it's gonna be because Damian was about to win. Drew's probably gonna come in, causing interference, which causes Jacob to recover, and then Jacob's gonna catch the win. How he does it, I don't know, but I think the Drew and Damian is gonna be tied into the finish.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I think this will be an interesting one. I will say that I feel like no matter what, the outcome still feels like it would lean towards Jacob retaining. Now, the interesting part is you were kind of talking about LA Knight, whether or not he would stick around in this US title scene. I think this would be kind of like the out for him. After this match, we probably see him fall off. And I want to say I think shortly after this, isn't it kind of like around the time when they have like the draft?
Oh, yeah.
Like
Why not?
I feel like it's kind of like nearing us, right? So it's like
Yeah.
I think on the topic of LA Knight, I think there's a possibility we may see him jump from SmackDown to Raw
I'll be honest. I
after
think that's a
this.
yeah. No, you know what? I
Yeah,
think that's a good idea to have the draft and move LA Knight
yeah.
to Raw
Monday Night
because
Raw.
that'll give him some fresh faces to feud with because
Yeah.
it feels like he's feuded with everybody he could feud with within
Uh-huh.
the mid card scene, the upper mid card scene, and if he was to challenge somebody in the upper mid card scene, it would probably be just running it back with somebody else. So I think the draft would be a good one and put LA Knight on Raw. I think that's a good one.
I'm going to go further beyond that and say have LA Knight go to Monday Night Raw. At some point, have him chase the world title, but make him go heel.
I'm for it. I'm for it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. Because if it's still Jay, let's just say it's Jay. Let's have the yeah versus Yeet matchup, right? But this time, I wouldn't mind seeing LA Knight kind of change it up a bit, go back heel.
I'm here for it.
Um, so I think it would be a nice fresh change of scenery for him specifically, just to kind of like keep him relevant, stay where he is in terms of his popularity, even if he goes heel for that matter. But nonetheless, then you still got Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. I kind of like how you were going with it. Knowing that the history between these two tends to be like they screw each other over, right? So there's a good possibility that yeah, Damian might be the fall guy here taking the pin. I think if anything, there is a clear. I would say clearly Drew would have some sort of play into that. But yeah, I would probably say if Jacob retains, he's gonna probably win it by pinning Priest in this matchup, and then it'll be interesting to see what happens after that because like I think right now when we look at where Drew McIntyre is, right, could he potentially stick around and kind of chase the U.S. title? Maybe, but it's hard for me to kind of see them really drag out the whole like a heel versus heel kind of thing. I don't see Jacob or Drew turning babyface anytime soon.
Nope.
And if Jacob does turn babyface, I would think they would save it down the road for him and a potential matchup with Solo, for that matter. So, if anything, I wouldn't be surprised if Priest and McIntyre continue their feud. However that continues, I'll be kind of interested to see. Hopefully, it doesn't get complacent. If they can kind of keep it sustained in terms of making it relevant, I'll be interested to see how that happens. But nonetheless, yeah, I think we'll have a and still Jacob Fatu U.S. champion. Yeah, know
So
what I mean?
here's a question though. And so this is something else I was thinking about when I was looking at the lineup and I saw
Mhm.
this match.
Mhm.
So let's say Jacob does go over.
Yeah.
Damian and Drew break off to do their thing. LA Knight falls off.
Uh-huh.
Who chases Jacob right after that?
Oh, good question.
Because I couldn't
Good
I
question.
couldn't really think of anybody solid right off the bat.
Uh-huh.
But maybe Ray Phoenix.
Okay.
Give him a run with Jacob. I mean,
Maybe.
maybe not culminating in him winning the title,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. Like,
That'd be interesting.
yeah, they could. I think they could hang together.
That wouldn't be much of a stretch, just because if you kind of look at the other side, right, like on the Raw brand, you have Penta currently in that IC title picture.
Mhm.
So yeah, that would be that wouldn't be too far fetched in my opinion. But at the same time, yeah, like I don't know. I'm not exactly sure who else would be kind of into that title picture outside of Solo Sikoa, right?
Yep.
But if anything, I would think that would kind of lead towards SummerSlam, and SummerSlam's a couple of months away, so they would have to kind of like have something in between now and then,
Right.
for that matter. But the we got another match here. This was kind of interesting, and I kind of like want to. I'll obviously share my piece on this part, but yeah, we got Pat McAfee versus Gunther. This kind of started off like the night. I would say the Raw after Mania, where we had Gunther approach the announcer's table and proceeded by trying to attack Michael Cole. Pat McAfee kind of steps in to defend Michael Cole. Ends up putting his chokehold on McAfee, which pretty much sparked this whole feud. The following week, McAfee came out cutting some pretty decent promos against Gunther. They had a nice stare down this past Raw as well. But I'll be honest, it's my take on this is really this is kind of like the way to kind of send Pat McAfee out for college football. That's how I look at it. In the downtime that he's probably gonna have away from WWE. Clearly, we know he has his commitments in college football, doing his announcing. So they kind of intertwine it into a storyline where they kind of write him off getting his ass beat by Gunther. That's how I look at it.
Man, you know what? That makes total sense. That makes even more sense. So my pick for this one was going to be Gunther. I was thinking he was going to win because everybody's expecting when you go into these kinds of matches, everybody expects the underdog to win, right? And part of it too is remember when he got choked out, his boys came from the crowd, right? So I'm fully expecting them to somehow be interjected into the match. But now that you're mentioning the whole football thing, I think it even more solidifies my pick for Gunther's gonna win because I think Gunther winning is definitely gonna go against the grain. A lot of people are expecting Pat McAfee to win, or at least a lot of people are cheering for Pat.
Really?
I think a lot of people are cheering for
I
Pat McAfee to win.
Huh. Yeah. Well, like it's just for me, it's such a tough call. Like you were, like okay, I'm gonna look at it from like a wrestling fan, right? You just had the former world champion going up against not to make it sound like Pat McAfee isn't an athlete, but let's be real, he's an announcer,
Yeah,
so
right.
and we know Gunther's the ring general for a reason,
Yes.
so he's gonna put out, he's gonna definitely, you know, to make his mark, make him run the ropes, and really put him on the mat for that matter, and he's gonna kind of make a clinic out of Pat McAfee. That's just my opinion.
So would you mind if it was a squash match?
Well, I don't know about a squash match, just because we technically got 5 matches, and you got
What,
three
two
hours.
hours, 3 hours?
Yeah, just around 3 hours. So I don't know if
Wow.
a squash match would be
Yeah.
sufficient enough
Yeah.
to be on this card. And I just don't know exactly how they would kind of fill the remainder of this PLE if they do a squash.
Yeah.
But it'd be kind of interesting to see if his boys, the guys that typically is on his Pat McAfee podcast, right, shows up and kind of inserts himself into this whole mix.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, so yeah, nonetheless, I feel like Gunther's just gonna come out, and it'd be kind of interesting to see what happens after. I could be wrong now that I kind of think about it, because we are kind of like just on the cusp of, was it May, like the very beginning of May. Football season doesn't necessarily start until September, late August, September. I'm not exactly sure what McAfee has outside of his show and his announcing duties on Raw. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure what he has planned after that. Maybe he takes time off. I don't know. But going back to the fact that I think Gunther's gonna, beat him just to kind of write him off a bit. That's kind of like where I was leaning towards. But who knows? Maybe they throw a swerve at us. Maybe it ends up being like a DQ. Let's just say that
Well,
McAfee's
maybe.
guys, McAfee's guys get involved somehow. Like they have like Gunther get backed up by what's his name, Ludwig, right?
Yeah, Kaiser.
Ludwig.
Yeah.
But I'll throw a swerve out here. I just kind of remembered this all of a sudden. I wanted to say this because I know there's been rumors of returns, and what would be cool is if the Mad Dragon returned here and started a feud with Gunther. So,
Ooh.
so yeah, I know there's been talks about Ilya coming back soon, right? And
Yeah, he's been gone for a while, huh?
yeah, because I think it was it ACL. I think it was
Oh, that's a bad one.
yeah, it's one of those injuries that you're going to be on the show for a minute. So, but it's been a while. It's been a while, right? So I would love to see them run it back because those two guys have really great ring chemistry. And hey, you know what? They pull a surprise, and who knows? What if right? Like now if I think about it, they pull a fast one on us, and it doesn't end up being McAfee in this match. Ilya shows up. What if?
I'm down for that. I'm down for it.
What
You'll
if,
get no
right?
hate on my end, dude. I'm here for that. I'm here
Yeah,
for
so
that.
that'll be a pretty dope banger though. That would be. And the women's. So we got to get some women's representation up here. And they do have the women's Intercontinental champion, Lyra Valkyria, versus her former protege or former role model, Becky Lynch, I would say. So yeah, interesting enough, this kind of goes back to night 2 of WrestleMania. We're all expecting Bayley to tag with Lyra against Liv and Raquel, but we then found out that Bayley got attacked, putting her out of the tag team match, leaving Lyra without a partner. So she ended up having a surprise partner in the name of Becky Lynch. They won that title, or the tag team championship, at WrestleMania. But then the following night at Raw, they lost the titles against Becky and I'm sorry, not Becky, but Liv and Raquel. Hey, that's kind of actually a good example of the hot potato titles right there.
Yep.
Literally the one
Yeah.
day after apart.
Yep.
Yeah. So nonetheless, that pretty much started the whole feud when Becky got upset and attacked Lyra at Raw. And here we go. So that the upcoming match, and I think these ladies have been building a strong feud. Clearly history between those two when I would even say going back to the NXT days of Lyra Valkyria. So yeah, I'm actually really interested in this fight. Just because Becky's been away for a while. First time chasing the IC title. Uh, Lyra seems to have gotten a little bit better, more interesting on the mic, specifically because of this feud with Becky. Who you got?
I just want to say before I even go into the match, and
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure everybody else feels this way, that I'm so glad that the women's division is what it is right now. I
Facts.
that we can look at the women's division and we're like, oh man, just not another women's match. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna get a good match, and and the women's division is so good right now that I gotta throw my praise out. Yeah, they're stacked, dude. I gotta give my kudos out to the women's division because it's so good right now. But with that being said, I remember I think it was last podcast I had said I hope Becky doesn't just squash Lyra. But the more I thought about it since that time, I think Becky's gonna win.
Okay.
I don't think they would want to waste this opportunity that they have right here with Becky just going full heel, and I can't see why they would just have Lyra win it and then just totally like blow the flame out on this rivalry, right? Like
Uh-huh.
I feel like even after this weekend, I feel like there's still more life to this story, that they could still do a lot more with this story. Plus, I think if Becky wins, it gives, in the end, in the long run, I think it'll give Lyra Valkyria more credibility, because it gives her the chase, and she's chasing a big name,
Uh-huh.
and it'll Becky can use her power to elevate a younger star. So when I really thought about it after we had talked about it on that other episode, I originally wasn't for Becky winning, but now that I've really thought about it, and the potential things that can happen with this storyline, and as far as bringing Valkyria up, making her a better star,
Uh-huh.
and just giving us a good long-term story overall, I think Becky's gonna win.
Yeah, I think because of the star power that Becky brings with her name, I wouldn't be surprised if they threw the title on her. Because I think WWE has done this in the past, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But a good example, right? John Cena, when he won the U.S. title from Rusev 10 years ago, he really elevated that U.S. title, and you know created that whole, like, or he was one of the people that defended it, having like that U.S. Open title challenge, like kind of on a weekly basis, right? So this case, I see a very similar circumstance: Becky winning the title, continuing an actual feud with Lyra, up to the point where we actually see a Bailey Becky feud go down. Because
That's what
at
I'm
some
thinking too.
Yeah, because at some point, I do see Bailey returning, clearly to avenge that attack from WrestleMania. And I feel like these two can put a hell of a program on there, because it's been a minute, right? It's
Hmm.
since we last saw I would say like a Becky Bailey type of feud, and these two women from NXT, being part of the four horsewomen, you know, that would that would be a great feat to see.
It
And
would.
obviously, the friends of the podcast, we're clearly big Bailey fans, and we root for her. She's my goat, and she will definitely be welcome back to this specific feud, or in this this title picture for that matter, because she also like with this IC title kind of being like fairly new in the women's division. This is definitely one of those belts where both Becky and Bailey have not won. Granted, they pretty much have won every single belt out there, outside of this and the U.S. title belt. So yeah, I think this would kind of set that up perfectly for them. And who knows? We could be in for a swerve. Maybe Lyra wins or retains by by some sort of outside interference
From
um
Bailey.
from Bailey.
That's one of the things I was thinking about too. Maybe an outside
Yeah,
interference from Bailey, but I don't. I think they want to slow burn this one. I think you're right. It's gonna culminate with Bailey versus Becky. And I think the earliest this is gonna happen. I think the earliest that we're gonna see Bailey is SummerSlam.
yeah,
I don't think we'll see her any earlier than that.
yeah,
So I think Bailey will come out during SummerSlam if Becky's on the card.
yeah, yeah. Because it's kind of interesting, right? I think when you look at this PLE being so close to WrestleMania, and even though Bailey was not on the card, I think people like Bailey, Cody, Roman, like some of these names that I'm talking about here, they're gonna have a little stretch in and downtime between now, or I would say from WrestleMania till probably the next big PLE, which is it's probably gonna be either Money in the Bank or SummerSlam, I would say. So yeah, it'll be kind of interesting how slow of a burn we'll see this specific feud run, um, leading up to what we were anticipating, right? The Becky Hope versus Bailey showdown. And last but not least, we do have the men's undisputed WWE Championship match with John Cena versus good old Randy Orton. So here, the feud pretty much started from the Raw after Mania. We had John Cena come out shooting a promo. Next thing you know it, good old RKO. Um, this happened once again, I believe, on SmackDown. So yeah, this is kind of interesting, right? Because almost anything you see Cena appear on is a must watch. And I'm not surprised that, this is his first title defense. And it's almost kind of like a callback that when you look at the rest of the year with John Cena writing it out, it's almost like we're gonna get callbacks to some of his biggest feuds. Granted, for those that are still around and still in that are currently in WWE, and I think this is a great matchup. Clearly this is happening in St. Louis, Randy Orton's home. They've had years in terms of history, long-term storytelling between these two. Um, I would even say like this is like the first time that we're probably seeing Randy Orton as the babyface and John Cena as the heel. Um, from all of their altercations. But who do you see winning here?
John Cena's going over.
Uh-huh.
I wish this was the final match that John Cena would have done, because it would have played perfect into Randy Orton being the legend killer, right?
That's a good point.
Yeah, he made his name on being a legend killer, and what legend than John Cena? Outside of like Hogan,
right,
bro. Outside of those guys, what better legend to take down to add onto that list of legends you've taken off? John Cena. I wish that would have been the final one. Yeah, the final match, the final title defense, and have Randy Orton go over. But we're probably not going to get that. We're probably going to end up getting Cody and John Cena with a scramble for Cody to take the title off of Cena, or Cena's going to take it. But I think Cena's going over. Like I said, I wish it had been Cody and Cena. I mean, not Cody, Randy and Cena at the end. And then maybe Randy could have did a program with Cody going into next year's WrestleMania, doing a whole passing of the torch, because and Randy doesn't have to retire off of that, but just a whole passing of the torch kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I can see the promo packages that they could make for Cody and Randy already. We all know it's going to be fire because they have so much history already. When they had what was their stable name?
Legacy.
Yeah, dude, they have so much history already, and I can see like that promo package that they did for CM Punk with his this fire burns. Oh, dude, I can see so many good promo packages for Cody and Randy. But back to the match, I think John Cena is going to win. It's pretty obvious at this point. I mean, I know they're trying not to make it obvious, but it's getting pretty obvious because they're saying this is the last time that Randy and Cena are going to fight, and if Cena's going to lose, why is he even going to come back but to chase the title again? And that wouldn't be the last time. And I don't think they would waste their time right now doing a back and forth with Randy and Cena. They probably have other things that they could storytell. Like you were saying, doing callbacks to all his different feuds, right? So if this is going to be the last time, I think Cena's going to go over.
Yeah. And I think if there was a knock on this whole PLE, I feel like the knock would be is that there is very minimal room of unpredictability, right? Like everything seems pretty much like, this person's gonna win, and it's almost like, why would the other person win? at this point, or like the latter, right? Because yeah, Cena just literally won the title from Mania, and I see that being kind of the issue here with having Backlash so close to WrestleMania. I just don't see any of these people that just won the title. Clearly, everyone here that has the title outside of Lyra is, I don't see
Brand
them
new.
losing it.
Yeah, they're
They're
brand new champs. There's no way they're gonna
fairly
drop
new.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fairly new title holders. And like how we mentioned earlier, Lyra is the one that has had the Intercontinental title since the inception of it. So that makes more sense of her actually losing it out of all of these champions. But yeah, Cena clearly, in my opinion, is also I agree with you. He's probably going to win the title or retain the title. Interesting. You kind of already touched on the whole, like the end of Cena's run, right? Talking about how you kind of saw Randy and him potentially being the final match for Cena.
Yep.
But it's funny, right? Because, maybe we should talk about this here. Let's just because, this is probably how many months away? Cena's retiring in December. So we're like not
7
even
months away.
halfway. Yeah,
Yeah.
7 months away, right? So maybe we can, and then we can look back at this episode specifically, right?
Okay.
Because I was telling you this, right? When we think about The Rock doing the whole 3, 2, 1, hand signaling, it's interesting because we still haven't seen the one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And clearly, when we last saw The Rock, he was there for the whole Cena heel turn, calling out the 2, right? And then slit his throat. So interesting enough, now that I think about this, or when we were last talking about this, and it was kind of off the podcast, I actually see that one being John Cena losing the title to Cody in his very last match, passing the torch, but also Cody winning that title with the help of The Rock and finally going heel Cody. He sells his
Homelander
soul.
Cody.
Homelander Cody, corporate man Cody, sells his soul to The Rock. That's the one leading up to whatever it is that Rock was trying to insinuate from the very get-go. Interesting enough, you also talk about Randy Orton, right? If this happens around December, where Cena's pretty much going to hang up
I
the
see where you're
boots.
going with this. I see where you're going with this.
You see it, right?
I see it. I see it.
Cody carries that title right into Mania season, where we can potentially see that whole Randy Orton Cody feud.
Bro, I'm here for that. I am
Right?
so here for that, especially because Randy has been telling Cody, you know what I mean? He cut that one promo in the backstage. He goes, there's gonna come that time when I'm gonna want my next title reign, and
Exactly.
if you have it, I'm coming for you, Cody. But I'm here to
Yeah.
back you up for now.
And
I'm here for that.
yeah,
I'm here for that.
like clearly Randy's such a big baby face right now, so that would be such a great, a great matchup for Mania next year. And granted, who knows, like what may happen between now and then, but I think the way the cards are lined up at the moment, that's how I kind of envision it happening.
Shit, I'm here for that, dude. I'll take that. I'll take that.
Papa H, if that happens, know where you heard it first.
You know where you heard it first. We know you stole our idea.
But then again, that it's interesting, right? They keep saying how like they already got things kind of written months ahead and such, so
but they
who
have
knows?
they have that documentary coming out, right? And
Mhm.
they were showing clips where like certain names were on the card. I know
Mhm.
Oscar was one of them for WrestleMania. So I mean, they may not be changing stuff on the fly like Vince McMahon, but
Who
things
knows?
change.
Things change. Yeah. Yeah, no, that would be interesting. But nonetheless, yeah, it's it'll be fun to see. Again, Backlash is happening this Saturday, and we'll see who comes out of all these matches, and if there's going to be any surprise. What you want to kind of throw out any surprises out there for any of anywhere along this card?
I don't think so. I think this is gonna be a pretty straightforward PLE. See, you got me messed up, Jojo. I had to stop and think PLE because I was about to say pay-per-view. And for those watching this and haven't seen our past podcast, this is a running thing where Jojo has made me feel extremely. We're the same age. And I'm not going to say my age. I'm not going to say his age. But he's making me feel old because I keep saying pay-per-view. If you know, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's telling you how old we are. If you know, then yes, you know. Nonetheless, that was a fun episode. Always have a good time with you, my friend. And again, thank you again for joining us. Continue to listen on Spotify, YouTube. Subscribe, please follow, like us. But for the most part, shout out to Cuzzo, Jay. No, they weren't here to join us today, but it was always you're always with us in spirit. Nonetheless, throwing up the ones, and we out.